Welcome to the Fragrance Files.
Welcome to the Fragrance Files.
So, what is a memory tied to scent that you hope to carry with you your entire life?
The scent of my mom's neck.
Mm,
Yeah,
I love that. What did
muzzling
it
it.
smell like?
I mean, I can't explain it. It just smells like my
Mm.
mother. That's the one scent I cannot explain. Everything I make smells fantastic on her, which is really, I'm like, is this biology? What is this happening? Or like everything that you wear, I like. But yeah, it's warm, it's inviting. It'll have like a leftover perfume, whatever she's wearing. Yeah, my
I
mama.
love that. So, for those of you who don't know, we are so honored today to have Donna Amastri here today of Jasmine Sarai. We got to meet when we were all at Scentfest, and it was such a pleasure to meet you. And listening to you on the panel, we knew, like, oh yeah, we got to talk to her.
Yeah.
I'm joining. That was really nice to
Yeah.
see your faces in the crowd.
Can you tell the folks a little bit about Jasmine Sarai and your work?
Jazmin Saraï was established almost 13 years ago, officially in 2014. It's where I started out exploring mostly scent and music and the convergence of both because I have synesthesia, or I discovered that I had synesthesia in perfume school. So basically, I just saw so many commonalities between the two, and I decided that's how I wanted to start. And then I kind of pivoted into scent music and culture for a variety of reasons, some of which I can share.
And before Jasmine Sarai, what role did scent play in your life?
I grew up in Dubai, so I'm half Lebanese and half Egyptian, and I kind of went back and forth to both Lebanon and Egypt in the summers, and I lived in Dubai, which has a very strong matrilineal olfactory culture. So it was pretty much everywhere, and it's part of Arabic culture in terms of language and poetry and just how much we are connected to our sense of smell. So it's played a pretty major role from a small or a young age. I just didn't realize that I could do it as a job until my like early 20s. But I mean, my grandparents' garden, all the fruits and jasmine that grew there, my mom's perfumes, my dad's perfumes, my both my grandparents, my Egyptian grandparents loved scent, my Lebanese grandmother loved scent. So it was really just kind of natural in a lot of ways. Not surprising.
It's something I feel like until, people, the light bulb goes off, it's something we really take for granted. I mean, how much like the smells that surround us that we grew up with shape who we are as people and shape our memories. But so looking back, were you always telling stories but hadn't found fragrance as your medium yet?
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
So I have a bachelor's in communication studies, and that was my way of going into sound production and music. And I wanted to sing. And that dream kind of deflated quite quickly. And once I found perfumery, I was like, wait, this is fascinating. It has science, art, philosophy, psychology, spirituality, poetry, nature, like everything you could possibly imagine, right? And I never really fit into certain things, and I was a fine student, but there wasn't anything that I really like loved or really connected with. So once I found perfumery, I'm like, this is amazing. It's like a convergence of all of these different worlds, and you'll never stop learning. So there's just always something new to learn, whether it's anthropological or environmental or political. Like there's just so many layers to it, that I figured I'd never get bored, and I haven't so far.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we've experienced just how intersectional fragrance is. There's
Exactly.
really not a piece of human society or culture that you can't tether perfume to. Um, and I think that's what makes it enchanting to sit down with every individual person who has come to fragrance at some point in their life, because every story and every road is so different.
I know it gives me chills every time. I really do love talking to people who have found olfaction as either a medium to express themselves or a medium as part of their career or as part of another intersectional practice or an interdisciplinary practice in their own work, or even just being aware of their sense of smell and enjoying that, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
we talked a little bit with Michael about it too, and how so many perfumers, especially indie perfumers, this is in some cases their second, third career. And I wonder for, the youth growing up and how popular fragrance is now with teens, what that's going to mean for the industry now that they know that this is not just something that you wear, but this is a career path that you could possibly take. It's exciting to think about on my end.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this was my plan B, plan C, plan D only plan, you know? Perfumery has been my thing for the last 16, 17 years almost, you know?
It's crazy thinking back to like just how much fragrance culture changes year to year, let alone over a decade.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Let
Yeah.
alone the last 3, 5 years. It changes
Yeah.
so fast. Yeah.
Going off of our questions for a minute, what would you say some of the biggest changes from when, even just 5 years ago to now?
AI,
Mm,
well, a lot more AI being used either on a large, corporate scale or AI in marketing fragrance.
yep.
I would also say the amount of indies has skyrocketed
Mm,
to a point where it's almost impossible to count. So I'm all for that as long as there is respect for the craft and like immense knowledge, because
yeah.
TikTok is really great and it's catapulted the fragrance industry in a lot of different ways, which is so exciting. But we have to remember that you still can't smell on social media,
Hmm.
and perfumers are not content creators, and that also creates a whole lot of like issues. And so the people who are more comfortable in front of a camera, who are like, hey, this is the journey that I'm on, and I'm teaching workshops while I learn, is something I get a little weary about, because you
Hmm.
can't be teaching while you're learning. Yeah. And so I always say this, and I'm sure other perfumers have too, is that it's such a responsibility to put anything on anyone's skin, um, especially on a larger scale, like more than 50 people is still pretty large. You know, you have 1 in 50 or 5 in 50 chances of a reaction or some sort of anything. And you as a perfumer need to know exactly what's in your formula. You need to be adamant about your confidence in that formula and the research and regulation that you've done in anything that you put out to the public.
An interesting tie-in there is, and we had this conversation, I don't remember, it might have been with Michael in his first episode actually,
Hmm.
was around uh, AI and large language models are built to be helpful. And if you ask it a question, it will give you a lengthy answer. It just might not be correct. And there's something about the way people who are coming from an uninformed point of view, getting a lot of information, mistake it for competency. And
Exactly.
it's bringing us into a really weird new area where we don't have a word for this idea that you think you know what you're doing because you've been told information, but that information is incorrect because it was a hallucination.
No
Yeah.
notes. Josh, that was
Could probably do a whole episode on AI psychosis in the perfume world.
There is something with the conversations around AI, and I am going to have a conversation around AI next month, um, where especially on the internet, nuance is dead. So being
Mm,
able to talk about it as a tool, it as an environmental impact, it as a political impact, and it as a creative impact are all completely separate conversations, and people often need to reduce it into simply black and white. There's
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
a whole episode should be had.
Well, I mean, I talk about nuance a lot in perfumery too, and people get like kind of like, why? I'm like, why not? Why can't we have nuance? whether it's cultural nuance, personal nuance, like why can't we know who's who and what does what and what expresses what and what comes from where? Like, why not? We're
Yeah.
also in the age of so-called intelligence, right? And so if this is, to me, the age of Aquarius, which I'm all about, it's like, okay, well, we're harvesting knowledge, we're creating community, and I'm not trying to use community as a buzzword. We're trying to create a community in which we are energetically linked, and we're so divided over so many things, but all of these new technologies are dividing us further, because if you look at the art of perfumery and the act of perfumery, it is historically analog, you know? And that's, I think a lot of perfumers love that and are trying really hard to kind of keep that essence alive, because again, yes, Google and other tech companies have come out with, certain technologies where we can send each other scented texts and I don't know what, but it's not really the same as hugging your mother. It's not the same as holding your friend's hand. It's not the same as, I hate this term, but fraghead, going to just enjoying perfume shopping together and having that experience. Like that's such a vulnerable experience, because as you're sharing a perfume, you're sharing your identity, your memory, your experiences. It's not just like, oh, do you like this or do you not like this? It's so much further than that. Every conversation is deep, and we can't have those authentic, nuanced conversations online anymore, because there's, we're faking it a lot of the time. And it's so hard for me to hide my struggle. And I'm told, like, as a business person, I need to not show it. But it's like the essence of my work needs emotion and feeling and realness, And the more I lie publicly, the more I do a disservice to myself and others.
No, I agree. I think the nuances, I think with short form content, the idea of nuance has gone out the window because we no longer have the attention spans to accept and really dissect those things. So you have to get in those buzzwords in that minute and a half to keep people's attention, and anything else that you might deem unimportant gets left behind. And that's the important parts of the conversation, that two things can be true at once. We can use AI as a tool, but it shouldn't overtake our artistic properties, and yeah, it's I have very multifaceted ideas and struggles with AI and many other things in the fragrance industry, but that's why we started a podcast.
Yeah.
I started one and I had to edit all my episodes and I got over it real quick.
Yeah. That's why we have Adam. We love Adam. Thank you.
Shout out to Adam.
But also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, it's also IP. So AI is going to cause more issues with IP, and IP is already an existing problem in our industry that has not been solved at all.
Was just reading, like, not even 15 minutes ago, the Van Leeuwen Rebel Creamery IP lawsuit between the two ice cream brands. Like $23 million in damages awarded to Van Leeuwen over Rebel essentially copying their style.
Oh my God.
Their branding style or their ice cream style?
Branding style.
It
was an interesting read, because Rebel, for some reason, their lawyers decided to go on the fact that high-end ice cream just looks like that. There's no other option.
I'm curious, because I was, living in New York, I was a big Van Leeuwen fan. I'm curious. But I mean, I think in perfumery, you could probably sue for a name, but that's it.
I think there was a lawsuit with Dior versus Maison Alhambra a few years ago because they were making dupes of the Privé line that were very similar in name, but also the bottles look exactly like what they were putting out. And I think they were able to win that one because I think they've rebranded those bottles since.
Right, but that's packaging.
Yeah.
But in any case, a scent and a package, that's a double whammy. That they definitely have it. But look at like Sophia Grossman and Trésor. That was like a French Supreme Court issue. I think it was like a Czech company I may be mistaken, Polish or Czech, Eastern European of some kind, and they copied Trésor. And the French Supreme Court denied Lancome's lawsuit because scent is subjective. Even though anyone who smells a Sophia Grossman perfume will know that that's something that she created, and that's the power of a perfumer's signature style, and her absolute genius. Which, don't get me started about the women who don't get their due and credit in perfumery, but I'll keep that for another time.
We might have to do a multi-part series.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah, looking at the original conversation around kind of nuance and fragrance, and particularly your experience, for you, what is it that the analog perfumery communicates that other avenues and art forms did not?
Well, slowness, intuition, its ability to weave through mediums in a way.
Do you think that scent and fragrance allow people to experience memory different than other mediums?
Naturally, just because it's part of our limbic system and where we process memory and emotion. So
Yeah.
absolutely, it's primal.
I also think, I mean, you've kind of worked across many different disciplines. You've been an educator, a writer, a consultant, a lecturer. You're obviously a perfumer. Which role kind of changed your thinking about fragrance the most?
I would say, as a lecturer or educator, twofold. One, because I had to go back into all of what I had learned and do more research, which is always a good thing. So I learned more about what I teach. I never want to teach anything I'm not 100% knowledgeable about. And then also finding a way to express that to others, and being able to deal with so many different personalities and thought processes and questions. That's always a really, really great process. I think sharing knowledge in perfumery is imperative, and I'm happy to share as long as it's credited, which is and then as an interdisciplinary artist, for sure, once I found perfumery, I realized, okay, now I can use this as my main medium and incorporate my music, incorporate my visual, incorporate my ceramics, incorporate all of these different elements. And it also helps me understand other artists and see where we can incorporate scents, because there's so many places where it's like, oh yeah, we're multisensory, but they never think about smell. So I go, did you think about that? You have a speaker and you have an HVAC. All you need is like a little thingy here, and you're adding an entire sensory experience. Just saying.
Yeah.
So I say that's of those.
I love that. Have you had a chance to experience any of Yonsei from Fisherson's installation work?
Sadly, no.
He has some really amazing ones. There was one installation that it caught me off guard just because of the technical capability, but it was a series of steel plates that were wired to resonate. So they were hanging in the space, and then he had corroded them to where each one resonated at a different frequency, but when you stood in the middle of the room, you could feel all of them.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And people that were kind of passively walking through the room, I heard a lot of mutterings of like, oh, it's just steel plates. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not tapping into the other parts of what this is.
Well, that's because I've noticed that olfactory art is the only type of art where you have to explain that it's there. Because we're so disconnected from our sense of smell that we're more attuned to reading the gallery text or looking at the space itself or listening, but going in there and smelling, no, there's no way. Any installation I have done, I've had to be like, smell here, or please go inside, or like there has to be some sort of prompt, because there's an inherent hesitancy. And I think it's changed a bit more in the last, let's say 10 years. or so, with the emergence of more olfactory art and installations, and olfactory art being recognized as an important art form. But there's still a hesitancy and a level of awareness that just requires awareness and perception, and that's not something you can do for anyone unless you literally spell it out.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's a lack of mindfulness that I think we, I'm someone who's always had a very strong sense of smell, so I don't really know what it's like to not perceive scent in a space. My husband has always thought I'm kind of crazy that I can smell something. I'm like, oh no, there's something, rotten in the cabinet in the back of the fridge, you know. Um,
That's
so
the survivor instinct kicking in.
Oh, absolutely. But it's so I don't know really what it's like to exist in that sense of not really being aware of the scent around me. But to me, it's slowing down and really like picking it apart is a mindfulness exercise for myself that I think we're often in such a rush to get through things that we're forgetting that piece.
Whoever came up with stop and smell the roses was like next level mindful genius,
Yep, absolutely.
Head of their town.
We'll combine that with the modern touch grass.
Yeah.
We're starting to get somewhere.
Yeah, but who's touching grass and smelling it? Nobody, except for maybe you. And maybe
I love the
anyone
smell of
else.
grass.
Me too. Cis 3-hexanol and cis 3-hexanol acetate all the way. But not everyone's going to do that. They're going to focus on the physical sensation more than they're going to focus on. And this is generally speaking. Anyone who's watching this podcast is obviously obsessed with smell.
Yeah.
We're not talking to you, honeys.
Yeah, I would be remiss. We're talking about grass. Have you had a chance to smell Ethernet by M. Haney?
Not yet, no.
Oh, it's so good. It's I thought it was a very fun, like tongue-in-cheek address to the digital age and everything. And
Yeah.
but actually smelling it, it immediately I think I said it on TikTok, put me back to my grandmother lived in a trailer on property that we grew up on. And when she passed away, we sold that and the trailer left. And I remember being young and like in the summer laying in the spot where that trailer used to be in the tall grass. And Ethernet just brings back that like tall, dry summer grass moving around you. I love that fragrance a lot.
So, your work often evokes places, but not just geographically, but also in an emotional sense. So, what does place mean to you when you're composing a fragrance?
I had a hard time with this question. I thought about it deeply, and because I have a complicated sense with belonging, I can answer it two ways. One, literally, where I'm trying to express an actual place in order for you to experience that place through a more accurate, nuanced point of view. And then the other is more philosophical. It's more of like, how can I create a sense of peace and place within myself and help you find that within you? Especially because so many of us are just kind of separated and all over the place. And some of us are immigrants and some of us are half-halves and mixed and all of these different things. It's like, well, yeah, how can I find a place for you and for me to stay almost grounded? And that is the place that I'm searching for.
I love that. I think, you mentioned you've lived kind of between several cultures. You grew up in Dubai, you lived in Canada, in France, in both coasts of the US. Do you think that experience has made you more attentive to this idea of what it would mean to belong?
It's been my lifelong struggle, so I find that it's made it harder, actually. My parents' cultures, even though they're outwardly Arab, one is more Mediterranean and one is more North African. So inherently, they're different. Even the dialect is different. The intonation is different. The humor is different. So, and then growing up in Dubai, where it was all about like class and this idea of success that didn't really exist. And the hierarchies of countries. So my countries were considered lower. in the hierarchy of things because of their social status, the economy, the way some of them speak. Like there's all of these different classist racial layers, even within our own cultures. And in Dubai, you're never really from there. So even though my name is Dana, which means pearl of the Persian Gulf, and my aunts lived there forever, and my grandparents lived there for 35 plus years, you can't retire there, or you couldn't at the time. So you're still considered foreign. And then I come to Canada, and Canada markets acceptance, right? And markets this international, global, multicultural situation. It's unfortunately not true. And the life of an immigrant in North America, no matter where in North America, is extremely difficult because this American dream also is the Canadian dream, right? And then you think you're going to Canada and you're closer to the American dream, but you're not really. And then you start a business and you're in a place where the language is French. And no matter how much you do for the community there and for pushing olfaction forward, you're still not one of them. So no matter where I go, I'm still not one of them. If I go to Egypt, I'm still not one of them. If I go to Lebanon, I'm still not one of them. If I go to Dubai, absolutely not. I'm technically Canadian, but I was prouder in that moment than both of my degrees combined because it took almost a decade. Then being an immigrant in the United States and running a business has been madness. First, I was the in-house perfumer at Joya on a visa where they tested my English. And I mean, I obviously passed. And then in that, it was 2016. Trump got elected. Everything went to shit. There was major anti-Muslim sentiment and a bunch of other things. And all this chaos happening with me. It's taken me 10 years as an immigrant to try to get to the United States. So 10, 15 years in Canada being an immigrant and then doing the same thing and starting over. So I'm crazy. Like I'm absolutely batshit for starting over in some of the hardest cities in the world. And so I don't have a balance. I can't, I mean, I'm extremely attentive, yes, to wanting to belong, but I don't actually know if I do anywhere. And now I'm in LA and it took me 20 years to get here and I'm still on eggshells, right? Everything politically has been insane, socially insane. We've had fires. We've had LA is falling apart as a city. And I'm here and I'm like, whoa, what's happening? And then I almost die because I have a tumor and surgery and a bunch of other crazy things. And I'm like, am I supposed to be here? Where do I belong? Where do I belong? And that's a question that my parents told me I asked them when I was 4 or 5 years old. Wow. So I don't know how to answer that question. What perfume does for me, or scent, is scent is solace to me because it exists in the ether. It exists in the in-between. It doesn't have to be in one place or another. And it could be so many different things. So I feel like I belong there, but I don't know if I belong in the world yet, if that makes sense. It's a long answer.
But it absolutely does. I mean, I think a lot of people spend their entire lives trying to define where they're from. And to your point, and especially hearing about your story and your perspective, your work asks whether we're allowed to stretch across several places at once and exist in that kind of liminal space. And in that aspect, do you feel like fragrance is helping you reconcile those identities?
I try, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in perfume school, it's like I come in and they perceive me as this Arab Canadian, right? And even in that perception alone, it wasn't accurate. And then my perception of perfume school also wasn't accurate. I didn't expect so much pushback with certain things. And it was all cultural.
Is that because like a lot of perfumery school is still very Eurocentric in the way that they're thinking about fragrance and not necessarily like raw materials and where they're from?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe 16 years later, I was a token hire in a way. You know, I got into school because of my background, ethnicity, and I had a great story. I'm a great writer, so I wrote a beautiful story about my history with scent. But going in there, the way that I was perceived, whether it was my personality, my emotion, right? My expression of emotion, my need to debate and need to debate incorrect information presented to me
Hmm.
about my cultures. You know?
Mm. Oh yeah.
Saying things and I'd be like, what are you saying? This isn't even real. Wait, what? And then I realized also this is a dissemination process because a lot of the perfumes that my parents and my grandparents wore were French perfume. And we have this thing in Arabic called عقدة الخواجة, which translates to foreigner's complex. And this is a colonized mind that all of us are trying to dispel and unlearn, right? But the concept of French, Italian, British being better or being more prestigious or being more like higher luxury, blah, blah, blah. I started to be like, wait, what is this? Wait, we've been thinking this is all beautiful, but they've been actually taking inspiration from all of our cultures. They're mixing up all of these cultures on top of each other, claiming that they're French, and it's highly problematic. And that became problematic between me and the genealogy teacher. And which is one of the reasons I teach the tracing perfume classes. I'm like, I want to teach classes that I wanted to be in. Why are we not talking about cultural history? Why are we not
Right.
talking about where the material is from? Why are we not talking about who is cultivating these materials?
Yeah.
And harvesting them.
And
And who's
harvesting
profiting off
them.
of them.
Exactly. It's a difficult conversation that people don't want to know the harsh truths about where that's all coming from and what the people's lives look like who are harvesting in the fields and working. Anybody who has not read House of Beauty by Arabelle needs to read it immediately. We said it before, I'll say it again, but yeah, it's an inconvenient truth, right? We don't want to see those things because then that luxury item feels tainted to us, and you're not going to be able to sell it if it has this sort of shadow hanging over it, right? I think one of my favorite moments over like when the all the tariffs were first announced was all the factories in China exposing all the luxury brands of, hey, so, we actually make that here and it's just stamped and maybe the hardware is sewn on there, but 95% of your luxury products are made here, but you think the stuff that comes here is the cheap stuff. Oh, it was such a beautiful moment.
It's complicated because if you think about perfumery for the last 100 years or so, it has basically piggybacked on the idea of fantasy, right? And so if we remove the fantasy, the mirage, the scented mirage that has been created by the French, and it's steeped in prejudice. And that prejudice cannot be removed because that prejudice is, I'm sorry to say, inherently part of the culture.
I mean, yes. We've talked about this a few times, I think, the way that the French luxury culture, not just scent culture, is derived from its colonial and imperial past. They're intrinsically intertwined for generations. You can't simply unlink them.
I know. You'd be surprised how many people push back when I say that perfumery is Orientalist. And I just tell them, hey, listen, it's the same time frame, little baby decade, not even, maybe 2 or 3 years, where Orientalist art emerged. So
Yeah.
how are you denying this but acknowledging finally Orientalist art and its origins and its problematic nature, right?
And when the cultures are acknowledged, they're often reduced to a monolith. And it's this idea of the exotic Arab world, which they call the Middle East. And then they say, the Silk Road. And they don't talk about the dozens of countries and cultures that spans and the histories related to them.
Like I'll have like maps. Like this is where it came from. Then they stopped here. A bunch of people stole that from there. Then they brought it over here. These guys sold it legally, but then these guys took it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And for me, the Middle East and this exotification of stuff, like even me, people be like, oh, you're Princess Jasmine, you should like be in the movie, or oh my God, you're so Oriental, or you're so exotic. And I'm like, these are not compliments. And then I get called problematic because I'm pushing against that and saying or like argumentative, right? Because I'm pushing back and saying, well, no, actually, that's not true. And also Middle East of where? Like, again, I'm from 2 different countries and neither one of them actively uses oud in their culture. Like, it's just not a part of it. Dubai, the UAE, Kuwait, GCC, yes. And I say GCC specifically because Iraq and Yemen are also on the Arabian Peninsula, but are war-torn and are not part of the GCC. So they literally surround this very, very, very specific corporation council that historically they were Bedouins. Some of them are related to each other. Some are not. They're all tribes. And they're all speaking a very specific dialect, specific to them, which has nothing to do with Egypt, even Mauritania. Like, just look up the Arab League. There's like 27 countries in there, okay? That's just like minimum. And then oud is not Arab. It's not an Arabic material. It's not an Arab person. Oud in Arabic refers to wood or the lute, the beautiful lute. That's it. Oud comes from Laos, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, went through India. India goes into what? Zanzibar, Oman. You'll see that, Oman. Why? All of this South Asian influence, you'll see that in food. They'll use musk and cinnamon and like a bunch of different spices and scent materials in their cuisine. So it's like, it's just geography. It's literally just geography,
Which Americans are notoriously terrible at.
I heard that, and I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. But like sometimes my answer is like when I say something and so I get a response and I just go, really?
I mean, it's a very small anecdote, but I took 4 years of Arabic in college, and I have a religious studies degree. So studying the Abrahamic religions and their sociological impacts on the world. But we were supposed to learn the Egyptian dialect because that was like the proper newscaster, like diplomat dialect. I'm not particularly good at like flashcard studying. So I listened to a lot of music and I really fell in love with Masri Leila. And
Lebanese.
Yes. So I kept getting in trouble in my oral exams because they were like, you sound Lebanese. It's too slangy. It's too lispy. It's not crisp enough. And I was like, but it's Arabic. And they're like, no, it's not. They're different dialects.
It's so funny that you say that, Josh, because Mashrua Layla, which translates to Layla's Project, is an openly queer band. And they have dealt with a lot of problems for just being themselves. The style that Hamid Sinno sings in is a style that was like low-key inspired by this band called Soap Kills that was also Lebanese back in the 80s. And it's kind of like it is a stretched out dialect. So I would laugh my buns off to hear you after this sing me a line. Because it's not at all how even like Lebanese people sing. It's like, it's so specific to Mashrou' Layla and Hamid Sinno that it's like his singing style even. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to like a whole playlist. I do particularly love them. I like the album that Fastine is on. I have it still saved in my iTunes. But yeah, it was just very funny because they were like, "No, this isn't correct." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm picking up vocabulary though.
Egyptian music, though. There's so much Egyptian music, and it's really easy to understand or like to pick up on.
I picked the hard one.
There's a lot of Egyptian pop and stuff like that. I'm happy to send you some just for dancing.
Sure.
And the Egyptians are good with their metaphors. Like, if you're a sweetie, they'll call you a strawberry. Or, there's a lot of fruit metaphors.
Interesting. I also remember there's a big fascination in like Dubai, the UAE, on like Korean dramas and soap operas are apparently quite heavily consumed there. So there's like a weird cross with like Korean folklore in the UAE. It was a very
I'm not
interesting learning experience.
surprised. We had a lot of media from East Asia in general. We also had a lot of anime translated or dubbed in Arabic, which was really funny. So I'm not surprised that the Koreans have made it to Dubai. Not at all. I mean, K-pop is like everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Not make it there,
Certainly in my car every morning, constantly for my children.
On the note of music, you've mentioned that music plays a really important role in your process and in your perfumes. How do sound and scent inform one another for you?
I mean, in every way. So they're wavelengthy. They work on a wavelength. You can normalize them. You can have shapes. They're both durational. Some can have rhythm. Some can have a melody. They both strike you in the same way. So, like a music or a song or a scent, you don't have time to intellectualize it. It just happens. And so you're feeling in that moment. They're both heavily feeling. And then I was obviously very research based. So I went into Septimus Pièce's work and was very deeply inspired by his like equation of accords to smells or to certain materials. And then obviously like a lot of the metaphor and language in perfumery is musical, So it was pretty obvious in that way. But also at perfume school, everything kind of just clicked. And I'm like, oh, well, I can hear this. And sometimes it smells that way or has a color and a shape. And I would write that down a lot. So there's a lot of noting of what you're experiencing. And that's also an act of mindfulness, right? Because you're in this like continuous sensory experience at all times.
It sounds like you're composing emotional rhythms as much as fragrance accords.
I would say so. I mean, with Nar, which translates to fire, that song is inspired by a very popular, we called him the Nightingale. He was a very popular singer in Egypt in the Arab world or the Arabic speaking world. I want to say like from the 40s to the 70s. And he was a poet and he was a romantic and actually quite a sweet man. And the song that he sings is called Hubbak Nar, which means your love is fire. And I wanted to transfer into non-Western music because it was structured differently, and those structures really inspired me. So Nar or Hubbak Nar, rather the song, there's an active experience called tarab. Tarab can only really translate to rapture. So rapture between the performer and the audience. And so in Egyptian music around that time, it was like the golden era of film and music. People really spent a lot of time at live music shows. And what would happen is that the artist or the singer is singing almost the same sentence, but in different ways. So you have all of these nuances, intonations, slight rhythm changes or slight melody changes, but you're saying the same thing. And it goes round and round and round and round. So with Nod, I only used 5 materials, literally 5 lines, to create that linear effect, that it wouldn't change too much, but it went round and round and round. So it had like a spherical, rapturous vibe or energy that really translated the music into the scent and vice versa.
So what about Sade's It's Only Love That Gets You Through moved you into making a scent?
So Sade is the ultimate lover girl. And Sade is very, very private, right? So we don't actually know much about her like heart matters. When I listen to Sade, I feel held. And this song in particular was talking about that even tenderness comes from the pain. And as someone who is generally more on the negative, sad side, that gave me solace. And so I wanted to create something that was like really soft and tender and holding you for the moments that you really feel like you need to be held and you can't be held by someone you want to be close to, or someone you miss, or someone you don't have anymore, or yeah, I just want to be held. I just want to be a baby.
Same, honestly, same.
No, adulting is hard.
Put in a swaddle, rocked.
People who come off very verbose and very strong often are that way because they have to be in the world. And then kind of when they can let that guard down, they do want to be soft. They do want to be held.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fighting a lot in this industry, and I don't want to fight anymore. Fighting for my place and to be taken seriously, to be appreciated, to be seen. Like, and I did everything that I was supposed to do, right? I did all of those things so that I could be taken seriously. But yeah, so I am sensitive, and I believe, and I know this is not with all perfumers because I've had this conversation with perfumers before. Some of them can really remove themselves from the work, but I believe that my emotion is what feeds the work.
That reflects really how much of it is not strictly your way of living, it is your artistic expression, and you are intrinsically tied to the art that you're creating.
No matter what, good or bad.
If listeners wanted to understand your brand through one album, which would it be?
I have no idea. I thought about this question long and hard. I listen to so many different things myself. And because Jazmin Saraï is so multi-genre, I'm going to give you a non-answer by saying a multi-genre compilation playlist.
Which they could find on your website.
That's true. I mean, I have a Spotify playlist with a bunch of things. Then almost every year I do a playlist for Jazmin Saraï. So there's like a bunch of different songs in there. Yeah, I mean, I can't be listening to one thing at any given moment. But if I had to choose a genre, it would be reggae, because it has like, if I only had to choose one, because it could be spiritual, political, social, romantic. It could be a female vocalist, male vocalist, instrumental, bands, harmonies. It could be slow, it could be fast, it could be dub, it could be reggaeton. Why not? So again, not a direct answer because I do not know. I'm a mixer. I just mix everything by nature.
I love that answer. So moving into the idea of legacy and memory, do you think fragrance can preserve history that words sometimes fail to capture?
Yeah, I mean, look at the olfactory history and anthropology that exists. There's tribes that communicate with smell as part of their language. They don't, from my understanding, some are not documenting that. Then you have ritual and matrilineal rituals of incense and stuff like that, right? Like I talk about this in some of my classes with Sudan. Sudan has an exceptional matrilineal olfactory culture. When you're married, you have your own blend that's created for you. When you're single, you have your own blend. So you're communicating without even speaking. And
That's
then
fascinating.
it's
I need to read
incredible.
on that.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you have several tribes in, like, let's say East Africa and then in South America who also have their own languages. Then we talk about like Hatshepsut of ancient Egypt. She brought like myrrh and frankincense from modern day Somalia, right? Her brother, the pharaoh after her, tried to erase her entire existence, but he failed. And now she's known for having brought those materials into Egypt and further into North Africa and the Arab world. So, yeah. Then there's also recipes. Recipes can be carved, they could be spoken to, like, kind of like a little telegram, like in your ear, like, this is what we're putting in there. Like a little bit of calamus or something. Who knows? It could be, there's so many things. So, yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
What kind of stories do you think deserve to be smelled and not just told today?
I mean, perfumery can be a form of storytelling in itself, right? But scent is felt no matter what. I think just traveling and experiencing the cultures that we're talking about is really important too, because we can talk about it, or TV5 can like make a nice little documentary about the Egyptian growers, and BBC will do this and that. But are we really experiencing it firsthand? Because again, it's through a medium you cannot smell.
When someone experiences your fragrances years from now, what do you hope remains?
I hope they still feel the intention. I hope they still like it. Sometimes when you're wearing a perfume too much, you're like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to wear it anymore. I don't want anyone to feel that way about anything that I made. Or if you've had like a bad memory and then something, you're like, associate that perfume with that scent. I really hope my perfumes are not those.
Yeah. We've talked about that happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so sad. So many perfumes just no longer. Because of bad memories. So yeah, like I really hope people can feel the intention, the authenticity, the joy. I want them to feel like some sort of like remembrance.
Looking at our closing ritual, if every perfume is a story, what kind of stories are you still hoping to tell?
Well, the story that I keep telling that gets a lot of pushback is, hey, can we stop using Oriental in perfumery? And that's still a bit yeah, it's caused some issues, some name calling, some racial slurs, some information being regurgitated and taken from me. But I'm not gonna shut up. Like, what the WPC taught me before I came to Scentfest is, when I was doing my first panel, I was joking about like, well, I won't get too spicy. We'll keep it bland, because I knew what room I was in, right?
Yeah.
But I also have been doing this for so long, which kind of goes back to that indie question. It's like, I'm free. I can say whatever I want. It has caused more problems for me. And even like the spirits are like, who are you arguing with? I'm not trying to argue with anyone. I'm trying to inform and to improve. And because there's so many people who love this industry and love what we create and love sharing all of that and this beautiful shared experience that we all covet, why not? Like, if we're talking about there's so much misinformation, how about I just give you a few facts that say, hey, do you ever think about this differently? Or do you know that this is maybe erasing a bunch of people and a bunch of cultures, or setting them aside, or pushing a certain agenda? Like, that's all. It's just critical thinking, which I understand is a lot to ask for in this day and age, because we are so inundated with information that double checking facts has become like actually a problem, literal fake news and stuff. But there has to be a line, there has to be a boundary where like this is worth protecting, I went on a rant.
No,
I appreciate it.
I do too, because it's making me think of like, there's been these moments where I've seen, especially on TikTok, and this is on the consumer end of things, of people saying like, "Why are you talking about politics and fragrance? Politics has nothing to do
Same
with this." And
thing.
it's like, Josh and I, we're right here, and it's like it must be so wonderful to live with so much privilege that you can't see the politics in absolutely every single aspect of our lives, especially now when things are so much more. You have access to so much more information, and things are playing out in our faces, and you can see right through the smokescreen of it all. And it's like, how can you exist in the world and not see that? Sometimes I wish I could be blissfully ignorant to it, because it seems like it's a much happier existence to live that way. But,
Me,
you know, yeah,
I had no
maybe.
choice.
Yeah.
I was politicized early
Mm-hmm.
because we have to be. This is the
Yeah.
reality of the world. And
Mm-hmm.
then going to French perfume school, I became even more radical because I saw how I was being treated on a subconscious level, or how I was being perceived rather, and
Mm-hmm.
then also what was being taught. And then I have a communications background. You want me to sit there and not talk about duplication and not talk about like how we communicate changes things and how we market things? Like the medium is the
Mm-hmm.
message. Like there's all of these different things. So the medium is the message. For me, scent is the medium. Therefore, scent is the message. If scent is the message, there's so many memes in this podcast, by the way. I just repeated. Um, like if scent is the message, then how are you going to sit there and say that it's not social, political, environmental, and all of that? Because it's exactly all of those things. And if we decide to ignore that, then sure, you can keep making money, but in the grand scheme of things, people are going to stop buying because people are getting smarter, people are getting more radical. And I was told, and I got into a lot of problems, and I got so much pushback from French men, especially, and otherwise. It's like, well, stick to your lane, just stick to being a perfumer, olfactory woke American bigotry, all this crazy stuff. I was called a barbarian because apparently Arabs are barbarians at a certain um and I'm sitting there and people are like, why are you fighting about this? Why are you so adamant about it? And I said, well, I'm not even presenting this from a socio-political point of view. I'm presenting it from a cultural and academic point of view. I just gave you a bunch of research links. I just gave you a bunch of alternatives. I'm not saying, oh, this is shit, and here, like, I'm not giving you solutions. This is why I'm saying this. If you agree with me, great. But now we have the TikTokers who have their own perfume brands or perfumes for other brands working on these concepts as their thesis, when this is literally my life. These are my
Yeah.
experiences. These are experiences of other brown and black and women, especially. So it's not like I'm not making this up. And as an immigrant, we're taught to lay low and be quiet and all of that sort of thing. And I did that for a very long time. I thought I was too brash for this French industry, or the Americans are going to find me too angry, or the British are going to, like whatever, right? And I care so much what people think, and I still do. But I don't believe that staying quiet is going to move us forward as an industry. It's just not. And I have all that to lose, and I've lost it all, and I've had to start over so many times.
Yeah, I mean, we've spent the last hour getting to know you and your brand and where you come from. You are welcome back anytime, and you don't have to worry about censoring yourself or feeling like you're too much for the room, because
Yes.
you've got the right audience here.
I want to take a moment to thank you, because the amount of emotional labor that it must take to have these conversations and to spend your time educating people on these things, it's a lot, and I know that could eat away at you emotionally and spiritually. So thank you for doing that and for giving that to people, and being the voice for so many that we absolutely desperately need in the industry.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Um, Before we let everyone go, what are some fragrances that you've been appreciating right now?
You're gonna laugh. I mean, I'll just make a couple of things and just wear them. Because like there's so many things I wish I could buy, but I need to buy materials and boxes and
Yeah.
so I'm not as an avid perfume buyer as I used to be. So I'll mix like ambernum, which I think is a Firmenich ingredient. It just smells like incense and benzoin and amber kind of like mixed in together. And then I'll use that as a layer for things. I'll wear Fruitful. In the summer, I also really like Jazz and Mare. I'll put those two together.
Mm.
So it's like fresh and green and Mediterranean. And then I have Feyrouz on my mind, so that's always a good thing. What else? I love Nymphaea by Tanais.
Hmm.
I also love like classic stuff. Féminité du Bois. I still have like the smallest little amount of it, and I will wear it still. Um, yeah, that's what I've been wearing more or less.
I have so I've been kind of having a lot of struggles with this conversation on TikTok recently, and have seen some really great creators finally, I feel, calling it out. And this idea that Arab fragrance is just what we see as what's being promoted on TikTok right now. So these dupe houses, these inexpensive houses, and listen, there are some of them that I actually think are quite nice, but I am not somebody who supports dupes. And I know when I post my video about this, I'm gonna get some heat on it. But I've really been enjoying the House of Amr recently. So the perfumer, and if I say his name incorrectly, please correct me. It is Amr. Ooh, my microphone just fell. Amr Al-Dradhi, and he's from Saudi Arabia. And this entire line is so spectacularly gorgeous. I have Arabian Jasmine, and it's really just, I think, one of the most perfect examples of a jasmine fragrance in my collection. I love to find a fragrance that to me is the exemplary of a note for me. And I feel that way with this one, where it feels like the life cycle of jasmine to me. It has this like burst of like opening like a freshly bloomed flower, and then in the mid kind of feels like it's starting to wilt, like the petals are starting to get a little transparent, and then at the base kind of feels like the oils of the leaves have kind of like just seeped into the dirt and into the branches, and it's starting its life cycle over again. It's really an incredible house overall, and I want more people to see fragrance from, Arab fragrance is not just what's being hucked to you on TikTok, that this culture goes deep and these fragrances are so much bigger than just the dupe houses.
I mean, a lot of those dupe houses aren't even Arab.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi houses
Mhm.
that have been like they're all families and they've been doing things for a long time. Or you have
Mhm.
Ajmal, which is also a Pakistani family, but they don't do dupes, but they do Khaliji perfumes, which is Gulf related perfumes. Amir
Mhm.
is a Saudi perfumer. Have you smelled my
Mhm.
jazz? Because his is like
Yes.
more indolic, I would say. Mine is
Yes,
a bit
definitely.
sweeter.
I
Who
love yours. I'm currently very obsessed with Fruitful.
else? Great.
Very obsessed.
Time for it. But it's kind of sad. You can only like you can count how many of us are in the industry on your hand, and I was the only one of my kind until maybe 5 years ago. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So the dupes are not. It's not the case. I mean, perfume plays a completely different role in the Arab speaking world, the Arabic
Mhm.
speaking world. So, yes, we have a lot of copies, but we also have a lot of attars, perfumers,
Mhm.
create something based on something else. The dupes that are on TikTok are just generally larger companies that are trying to make money, right?
Yeah.
They're just trying to sell to people. And so, again, what's your intention?
Mhm.
Because intention is everything and people are going to feel that. um and no, it's not representative of us at all. One, it's not Arabian, we're not
Yeah.
horses. And two, like, it's just kind of disrespectful and it
Yeah.
is prejudice.
Yeah.
It shows you prejudice in pure action.
Yeah.
This assumption that things that come from there are going to be cheaper and less quality and less this and this and that, when what, 70% of the world's jasmine comes from Egypt?
Yeah. Yeah.
All the stories that exist in Guerlain come from somewhere else. Memo Paris, Montal Paris, like these
Yep.
entire brands. Terrifying.
Yeah, I've long felt kind of weird about a specific brand that is a British woman, but they're all like vaguely Middle Eastern. And this again, you know, I purposefully have been trying to shift my language away from saying Middle East and saying the Arab world, but like this very weird dichotomy of like African and Arab ingredients as the stars of a British brand is very strange to me. And I'm like, does no one want to talk about this?
That was something I noticed a lot of when I was in Milan for Essence, is that these are all like lots of Italian owned, lots of French owned brands, and they are all marketing themselves as the smell of Africa, the smell of India, the smell of China. And it's like, but are any of your perfumers from those places?
No.
Is anybody involved in your company from those places that were telling those stories? I digress.
They don't even see the problem. It's like Quebec.
No.
It's like they're blind to their racism.
Yeah.
Like it's actually like no one's gonna say anything. And again, they're selling to people who are of a certain class and purchasing power.
That is to say, we could have a whole nother episode. I would love to have a whole nother episode talking about independent perfumery and kind of like cultural competency. In the meantime, can you tell our viewers and listeners where to find you?
You can find me in Los Angeles if you're here, but if you're not, you can find me at jazminsaraï.com. So that's JAZMINSARAI.com. On Instagram, I'm jasminsaraï.sense. On TikTok, I'm jasminsaraï_Dana Al Masri, just so that people know that it's like not one person. You can also find my work at danaalmasri.com. You'll see like olfactory art, you'll see cross-modal art, you'll see all the cool projects that I've worked on since I was 22.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for the time, Dana.
Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing
We
question.
appreciate you.
Thank you for your time, your openness. This was really, really great.
All right. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Okay, love you. Bye.